What's up, everybody? Jake Blickenstaff with the Northeast Georgia Real Estate Podcast coming back to you with another episode. And I'm delighted to say that I have Mr. David Bradley here with the Athens Area Chamber of Commerce. I've really been looking forward to this one just because this will put a different perspective on what's going on, not necessarily just in the real estate community, but what the economic perspective is of businesses and how things are going within the Athens community.
Oh, Jake, I look forward to it. It's, I've looked forward to this as well. I mean, I'm a little intimidated, but our future is wildly bright, and sometimes we can get distracted by negativity that we see and hear in a lot of places. But when you really look at what the future holds, as far as commercial and residential, the totality of our economy is going to grow substantively over the course of a few years. We can talk about that when you're ready.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I know a little bit about you, but why don't you do me a favor and let the audience know like who you are, what you do, and how you kind of came into this position with the chamber.
Great question. I grew up. My wife and I are Reformed North Carolinians.
We won't hold that against you.
We moved down to Athens in August of 2018, specifically for this job. I grew up in a small town in North Carolina, Mount Airy, North Carolina, which is Andy Griffith's hometown, and is truly Mayberry RFD. It's a small community of maybe 10,000 people. Grew up, was one of those kids that said, wipe the dust off my feet, I'm never coming back. I went to school in Greensboro, North Carolina. And after that, I did have the opportunity to come back. And ultimately, I was running a manufacturing plant. We manufactured synthetic synthetic twine and rope for the marine industry, or for hay balers, or any type of different uses for rope or twine. We sold that plant in 1993. We purchased maybe 5 million pounds of polypropylene resin out of Evansville, Indiana, but we were the largest customer that those guys had on the East Coast. So I spent the next 5 years setting up East Coast distribution for this plastic resin producer out of Evansville. And in 1998, my wife and I, Dawn, we had identical twin 5-year-olds and another daughter on the way. And Jake, I was traveling. I was on the road 4, maybe 5 nights a week. Mm-hmm. And we came to a pretty quick understanding that needed to change. I loved what I was doing, but I also realized I needed to be a better father. And so in 1998, I had the opportunity to take over as president of the Chamber of Commerce in Mount Airy. Okay. So I've been in the business for 25 years. I was in Mount Airy at the Mount Airy Chamber for 8 years, and then moved about 50 miles south, in between Charlotte and Mount Airy, to Statesville, North Carolina, and was there for 13 years. And was then recruited to come down here. Okay. And what I've realized in this crazy chamber world is, there's a mantra in our profession that notes, if you've seen one chamber, you've seen one chamber. Because every community is different. Every community has a different whole. Mm-hmm. In Mount Airy, we had there's down to 10,000 people, but we had 30,000 people that migrated into work every day. But the 3 years before I joined the chamber, we lost 6,000 jobs. Oh, wow. In tobacco, textiles, and furniture, because they all went literally and figuratively south. So our job was the hole that needed to be filled was to create a tourism-based economy. And we just hired the right people at the right time for the right reason. And that worked out incredibly well. In Statesville, the community, we were at the intersection of I-77 and I-40, so we had 125,000 cars ride by our front door every day, but in 20 years, our community the Statesville hadn't grown much at all. Our median family income had not grown over 20 years. We'd just basically fallen asleep. So our job was to help create a sense of place as Charlotte was exploding and the cost of living was so high. We were a great venue. We could have been a great venue for 25 to 45-year-olds with new families to live in Statesville and commute back and forth to Charlotte. That was what our hope and expectation was, and again, we were in the right spot to do the right things, and it was great. So coming here, it took a while to try to figure out what where the holes are or what needs to be done, and I think that, gosh, this is a mighty long answer to a really short question.
I think it paints a clear picture, so I appreciate it.
Here, I think we've thought that we're in a community where there's a lot of silos.
Yeah.
Silos of local government, maybe the school system, the University of Georgia, and the business community. And our job, as long as we act in silos, we're only gonna see little hills of success. We're not going to reach mountains of success if we're operating in silos. And so our job is sort of to have the business community have a more distinct and recognized voice, but also to help connect folks. We realize now that the biggest issue that we face in this community and in this region is workforce development, and so we are sticking a flag in the ground and saying that's our job now.
Well, first off, I appreciate that because, like I said, it does paint a clear picture. So with your kind of vast experience over the last 25 years, what would you say some of the primary differences are when you first got started to where you are now in Athens with the size of the community or the different types of businesses that are there involved with?
Yeah, great. Wow, that's a great question. On a interesting side, when you're in a smaller community, and sort of everybody knows everybody, it's easier to get everybody on the same page.
Yeah.
Likewise, I guess if people start jumping off the page, it's easier for people to scatter. So both in Mount Airy and to some degree Statesville, it was. I don't want to use the analogy of being a big fish in a small pond. It was you could gather all the fish together in those small ponds.
Yeah.
Coming here, the pond it's a lake, and there's a whole lot more fishes that are out there. Some that don't want to play, and some that would rather eat you. But it's. I think that the challenge is greater in building consensus in a community like this. That's the challenge. On the positive side, which there's so many more positives, is in the previous communities in which I lived. If we had, I've said this, and this is literal and figurative. I mean, if we had a company that was going to announce that we were going to expand by 10 employees, and we just shut the town down and had a parade.
Can't necessarily
right? And here in Athens, we 2 months ago we had the largest announcement in the history of Athens, Clark County, as far as industrial expansion. That was Meisner. Meisner is going to be breaking ground, we think, sometime in the next 2 or 3 months. But they're going to be employing 1,700 people.
That's huge.
And it's just sort of a whisper, because it's more than a whisper. I mean, it's a phenomenal opportunity, but where are we going to find 1,700 people?
Yeah.
That's our challenge. So the differences between communities are dynamic, and I owe a lot of credit to the people that have been either in my position before or in leadership positions before, because they really have set the table for our community to do some extraordinary things.
Well, I know that from my perspective, being a chamber ambassador with the Athens
And
Chamber.
thank you so very much.
Very welcome, my pleasure. I have I look at it as a very small role in this, but I enjoy it because, for one, it puts me on the front lines to be able to interact with some of these new businesses that are coming into the area or the chamber. Maybe they've been here and they just didn't understand what the benefits of the chamber were.
Right.
So that helps me lead into the next question of what are some of the benefits or the main directives of the Chamber of Commerce for like the area, if you're a local business owner, or maybe if you're looking at moving into a new area. Like, why would it be beneficial for anybody that's potentially watching this, if they're not a part of a chamber, to reach out to you guys and kind of start that dialogue?
Maybe my favorite question. So we have nearly 900 members of the chamber. And if we have 900 members of the chamber, there are 900 different reasons why people will join or they'll renew their membership in the chamber. And there's no right or wrong, reason or answer to that. But all of those reasons lie on a continuum. Yeah. And on one extreme of that continuum, if our base dues is $385, somebody may join or renew their membership in the chamber, but expect to see $386 come in as a direct result of that. And on the other end of that continuum, you have people that would say, "Hey, I don't hold the chamber responsible for my gross revenue, but I really want to be a part of a community an organization that is trying to craft a vision for what tomorrow looks like, and to be the voice of the business community." So everybody is somewhere on that continuum. Yeah. Again, there's nothing right, wrong, or indifferent. So the guys on this end that are transactional members, that are really looking to see how do I get a very direct return on investment. That's more about networking, and we have probably 4 to 6 networking events every month where you have an opportunity to grow your customer base or supplier base, whatever you're looking for, and if we have 900 members there, we have close to 10,000 Athenians that are connected to the chamber as a result of their company's membership. So you really do have a pretty wide berth of potential customers. For people that are on the other side of the continuum, we're in the process of a workforce development strategic plan. We are in virtually every business that we talk to on every day is looking for people to work. In Athens, I think we have in Northeast Georgia, and we're easily the largest community in Northeast Georgia. I think there are 1.7 jobs available for every one person that is unemployed. So if every one person that is unemployed got a job, we'd still have a couple thousand jobs left over. Yeah. So that's short term. Long term, we're going to be in a crisis. Yeah. So we're putting together a workforce development strategic plan to sort of address that. Does that put dollars on somebody's table who's looking for $386 from their $385 investment? No. But you're creating a vision for how businesses can be more successful in 5 and 10 years from now. Yeah. So that's, when we have programming that runs the whole gamut, and maybe it's being connected to local, state, or federal politicians, or maybe it's, we'll do just almost anything. There are a couple very easy, tangible returns that we, through the Georgia Chamber, as a member of the Georgia Chamber, we can offer to local employers. The Georgia Chamber is one of the first chambers in the country to have an associative health care plan. So if you are between 2 and 49 employees, there's a Chamber Smart Plan that is a group health care plan from Anthem. When I first heard about it, Jay, this was probably 4 years ago, I was a little bit skeptical. Yeah. But we converted to the Chamber Smart Plan, and it saved right about 4 years ago, and it saved us $600 a month.
Wow.
So I mean that's immediate payback.
Absolutely.
The chamber, so that's for employees from 2 to 50 or 2 to 49. Last year, the Georgia Chamber came out with an additional plan for employers from 50 to 100. Again, that's saving substantive funding for virtually anybody who's integrated into the program. Now, what people might ask is, well, gosh, can you give me a quote on what that insurance would be? No. It's still sold by local group health insurance brokers. So whether it's Costa or Cole Hickson or Boswell or Chastain, all have access to these plans, and the only stipulation is you just have to be a member of the local chamber.
Okay, so that's definitely a benefit.
It's a super easy benefit, and Jake, we know that we are I think there's 120 chambers in Georgia, and we're Cobb County just overtook us as the chamber that had the most members on those group health plans.
Oh wow!
So it's a great benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to take a step back to something that you said and kind of dive a little bit deeper. So you said that continuum that people are on, whether it's just signing up for the ROI based off my dollars spent and what I can get back from a return for my business, or from the really just diving into the involvement in the community and being attached or being a member of. I know for me personally, especially being in real estate, obviously networking is a huge part of it. And I will say I'm a huge advocate of the Athens Chamber primarily because you guys have been the first organization that I've been a part of where whenever we do have a networking event, not only are you guys setting the stage for everybody to participate in the networking portion of it, but you guys say, hey, go around and give me 30 seconds about who you are, what you do, and what are you guys looking for? Because giving everybody the platform to share about what your business is, I think that's a huge opportunity that not a lot of people get.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right, and we have a great. I think that one of the best things about our organization as a staff is incredible. It's probably it's easily I think the best staff I've had in 25 years that I've been with the chamber, because you're always trying to. We're always very intentionally trying to think of what does Jake want? What's the member want? So we really do try to structure those events such that the platform is yours. We might have large events, like we have the mid-year out in Winterville the night of the horrific
the massive storm.
We know that some people aren't as extroverted, right? So, and we know that even introverts want to be connected, right? So we've now structured most all of those large events to say, guys, we're going to give you an ambassador if you want that night, so that he or that ambassador can help you get introduced to the people that you need to get introduced to.
Yeah.
So I think that we're trying to do some interesting, intriguing ways to get everybody engaged and involved in some way, shape, or form. And I would also tell you there's an intrinsic benefit to the chamber. Studies will show that when there's a member of the chamber that is maybe competing for interest or eyeballs with a non-member of the chamber, folks will go with the chamber member 75% of the time, 75% more frequently, because it's a figurative seal of approval. Not that we say that one is better than another. It's just the way it is. But I would suggest to any of your listeners, we're one of the fastest growing chambers in Georgia. And that's largely because we really don't try to sell membership, we just try to earn it.
Yeah.
So if anybody's interested in having a conversation about, is the chamber right for you, or we're wide open to having the conversation, and we're not going to come in with a predetermined answer of yes.
Yeah.
So.
So now I'm going to get into the fun part of the conversation. With your primary involvement with business owners in the area, do you have any advice that you would give for any aspiring business owners or anybody that's maybe just getting started in their journey that's maybe in our area, or even if they're outside of our area, like what would be some good next steps for them with their journey?
So it's for anybody who's just thinking about getting into business, either just getting into business or getting into business in this area. The Small Business Development Center that UGA, that the University of Georgia has, and has an office on Broad Street. It's recognized as being one of the best in the country.
I've gone through a couple of their classes. It's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, and for relatively no charge, send people. You go in, you can develop a business plan. Probably give you some. They'll give you some great guidelines and great suggestions as to defending your business plan or understanding what the market is for your product line. We have through the chamber. It used to be SCORE, which is the Service Corps of Retired Executives, but I don't think they use that whole. I mean, I think it's now SCORE, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a retired executives, but for little or very little or no cost, you could have a direct mentor to provide support and advice along the way as well. But I would also say that all of our staff serves as support staff for people that are looking to go into business. Again, if we can offer connectivity to people who might be able to finance, a business, or somebody in marketing, or our job is to be a connector. So if somebody is looking to go into business and wants to be able to get connected, and again, this is not about membership, it's just about earning membership, but more importantly, it's about making somebody with a great idea become successful. And then, we'll get them at some point in time if and when they're successful and we've done our job.
No, I love it. I'm a huge advocate, and a closed mouth doesn't get fed. So if you're on that path, and if you have a question, ask the question.
Oh, I'll just tell you, I had, I'm not a smart person. Oh, Lord. Such a dummy. In 1999, in Mount Airy, a friend and I was already at a job. I was working 50, 60 hours a week, and we decided that we would open up a restaurant. And we both had some background and food management, but nothing quite that crazy. And we invested a lot of money, but we had so many questions, but we didn't ask because we didn't think that the local restaurant clientele would answer. And 9 months later, we had to shut the restaurant down, and the restaurateurs in the area said, "Why didn't you just ask?
Yeah,
we all want to see each other succeed."
Yeah.
And I think that's the reality. You're right. A closed mouth doesn't get fed. I'm glad I wouldn't have changed anything in my life because I'm sitting here right now.
Absolutely.
But that was a hard lesson to learn.
Yeah, and I think that exact story kind of ties back into the SCORE program.
Yeah.
Where being able to have a mentor of somebody that's been down the road you're trying to go.
Yep. Somebody
that came from where you're currently sitting. Somebody that is doing what you want to be doing and already has the success. Like, you would be amazed, the people that are already sitting, quote unquote, on the top. Like, they are more than welcome to share all of that knowledge if somebody would just ask. Instead of somebody that's just getting started being envious of individuals that have the success, if they would just take the time and be humble enough to be like, would you mind sharing with me some of the tips that got you where you're at? And everybody that I've spoken to are more than willing to be able to provide that information.
I agree completely. It is a great lesson. And I needed to hear this today, to be honest with you.
Well, good.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Awesome. So now this is kind of more the fun part of really kind of taking the curtain back a little bit.
Sure.
On what your perspective is of the community currently and like where we're going to go. So as of right now, where you sit, what are some of the key industries that you're seeing that's driving the economics for here in Athens?
I think you're gonna. I think some of the drivers right now are health services or health science businesses like Boehringer Ingelheim or Athens Research and Technology and Meisner coming in that all have sort of a biotech mentality. And I think that we're going to continue to see an expansion of those businesses. John Mitchell, if you haven't had a chance to talk to John Mitchell, he'd be great on this forum. John is the new CEO of Athens Research and Technology. I guess he's been here for 3 years. They have been recognized as the exporter of the year in Georgia now for the last couple of years. And of all things, they spin out of plasma. They spin out proteins that are used for medicinal purposes across the world.
That's fascinating.
It is and it's absolutely fantastic. The company is maybe 40 some odd years old, but John has come in and realizes that this company has the potential to hire the very best of the very best all over the world to come into Athens and really expand the company. I think Athens Research and Technology had a role to play in COVID vaccines, interestingly enough. So I think we're going to see a continued expansion in some of that biosciences world. Interestingly, in Athens, we were the smallest, or Clark County is the smallest county in the state of Georgia. We have 5 pathways. God, I can't tell you, I can't recite exactly what they are through the Office of Economic Development. It's bioscience, it's brewing, and gosh, Ilka McConnell could tell us all of what those are. But we're in a position, unlike 90% of the rest of the population, who most other communities have pathways or targeted industries that they're trying to land. However, if somebody wanted to come into the area that's not in those targeted industries or targeted areas, they would welcome them.
Yeah.
We don't have to do that. We're ILCA and the Office of Economic Development are really targeting 5 or 6 key areas, high wage, high benefit areas, because we don't have a whole lot of land, and because we are economically very, very incredibly stable right now. We're going to see an expansion in that area. We're going to see an expansion. We're going to continue to see expansion in education with the University of Georgia. I think one of those areas that is underappreciated is in the innovation and technology programming that's coming out of the University of Georgia through their innovation district. UGA has, I'm not sure that the terminology here, but I believe for the last 2 years have been in the top 5 universities in the country for.
Next part, politics aside, we dealt with a fiasco for the pandemic. Businesses shut down, never to reopen their doors again. So from a chamber perspective, what have you guys seen going through that crisis? And then now we're on the backside of it, thankfully, of for one, nobody could have prepared for that.
Right.
But for 2, what are you guys seeing now from maybe preventative measures or business growth? What effects have you guys seen essentially from the pandemic to now?
Well, gosh, a great question. What I think that Athens Athens businesses proved to be relatively resilient, as resilient, if not a little bit more so than many other communities. Early on during the campaign, during the pandemic, we began to have a couple Zoom meetings each week with might be the mayor or the head of the hospitals, or any business sectors that just needed information. So, I think many of us were directly involved in trying to do everything we could to try to keep businesses engaged and open. That wasn't the case with everybody, that's for sure. I think that I want to focus a little bit on the business sector that was easily, almost utterly destroyed, which is the hospitality sector. I don't know that it's a standard rule of thumb, but I think recognize that if hotels or lodging establishments can be at 65% occupancy rate over the course of a month, and that's close to their break even. Yet for the first 5 or 6 months of the pandemic, their occupancy rates were in the single digits. The Classic Center lost, over the course of the first 2 weeks of the pandemic, lost millions of dollars worth of bookings. And obviously downtown, with the restaurants and bars that we have downtown, it was shocking to see what transpired. Speculation was it was going to take 3-4 years 3 years once the pandemic was over. It's going to take 3 years for it to come back. And the hospitality business, it reached its pre-pandemic levels 6 months after the pandemic was over with, and we're already well above where we had expected to be in previous years. So what do we do? What do we do going forward? What I think we learned is that we have to do a better job of communication. I think we have to do a better job in the leadership of Clark County of having a crisis management plan that we don't have, and we need to make sure that all of our crisis management plans include how do we continue to support the business community during that crisis, because a thriving business community creates prosperity for all Athenians.
I mean, if you look at Detroit, for instance, once all the jobs left, I mean, it kind of turns
goes down.
Yeah, it goes down. So you have to have some support, or a lot of support, for the businesses, for communities.
Right.
So I'm a huge advocate of that. Are there any specific infrastructure projects or developments planned in the area that you're aware of that could potentially start to impact commercial real estate opportunities and property values?
I think, actually, I think there's a couple of them that I would point out relatively quickly, and just not too far away from here is, the Bethel Homes neighborhood, which is, just right off of, adjacent to downtown. Is in the process of a dramatic rebuild of that.
Yeah, that's right next to the Athens area, or
the Council on Aging.
Council on Aging. Yeah.
And it's taken a neighborhood and a lot of government assistance, families that are receiving government assistance, and you're completely reshaping that neighborhood. Everybody who's in the neighborhood and is on government assistance will have the opportunity to move back in, and will be prodded to do that. And I think they would enjoy the development that will be in there. But that's going to be a very cool expansion to downtown. It'll be a sort of a mixed use development. I think what is getting ready to transpire at the mall, at Georgia Square Mall,
that's going to be a big one.
I mean, it'll be transformational. What I understand is Atlanta Highway used to be really sort of the commercial hub of Athens, and I think this the expansion of Georgia Square Mall, the redevelopment of Georgia Square Mall, which I think will have as many as maybe a couple thousand people that will be living on that site, will absolutely be transformative. It'll boost traffic on Athens, on Atlanta Highway, which is both a good and a bad thing, but it will absolutely be a commercial hub and bring Atlanta Highway back up to its spot of relevance.
I agree, and the good part about over there is now they're about to have a quick trip open up, so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, they are, Jake. They are also, oh lordy, I mean, you know the housing world. It's hard. Yeah. It's hard right now. We have a lot of business, commercial growth in the region, and there are a lot of counties that are contiguous to us that would suggest, hey, we're not doing multifamily units. That's just not who we are. Yeah. But we're also not able to build a house that middle income folks can live in. So we have tons of multifamily units going up right here, right now in Athens. Maybe 30 or 40% of which are for college students, and some would say that's not necessarily a good thing. If I'm a developer, though, I can get more for that. I can get a higher return for that 2,000 foot space if it's for college students. But there are lots and lots of multifamily units going up, which will continue to drive our population base and our purchasing base. There's a lot going on.
Well, from the residential housing perspective, just to throw in some nuggets. As of right now, I mean, everybody's aware that we have very limited available inventory. Right. And so even if there's a lax or decrease on current regulations to be able to construct sooner from a permitting standpoint or whatever, if we had new home developers coming in and just putting up homes like wildfire, it would still take between 3 to 5 years to catch up with current demand. So there's no possibility of that happening if you also take into consideration what our normal annual population growth is just as a societal, as a whole. Yeah. So I mean, that's always going to be a constant problem that we're chasing, because even after 2008, there were so many new home builders and people that left the trades industry that they got left holding the bag. And like, you guys remember all the ghost towns of new development homes where they had cleared everything, had the site plan, and there were just no houses there, or there was plenty of houses there and just nobody was living in the community. So like, to avoid that, we went in the complete opposite direction and didn't have any new home construction for about 5 years after 2008. And so now we're trying to play catch up to that.
Yeah, and we're trying to play catch up in an environment in which, at least at the course of where it looks like we're heading, we may never be able to get caught up, because Athens MSA, or Metropolitan Service Area, we had a statistical analyst come in to speak with us, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, and he noted that the Athens Metropolitan Service Area, so that's the 12 counties around us, including Clark, is the third fastest growing in the Southeast, behind Charleston, South Carolina, and Raleigh-Durham. Barrow County and Jackson County are the two fastest growing counties in Georgia. And Clark County is not too far behind it. So we have to try to play catch up for the last 10 years. But we're going to continue to grow by leaps and bounds, and I don't know how we're actually going to get caught up until we change some zoning regulations or what have you.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that's just going to be one of the challenges that we have to deal with. But speaking of challenges, what are some of the main challenges or obstacles some local businesses face in terms of expansion and relocation, and when it comes from like a chamber perspective that you see? Does that tie more into like those zoning regulations that you're talking about, or do you you have anything else you want to add to that?
So sometimes they do. There is to some degree a little bit of a, I don't want to say misconception, but in many communities in which you might go to the planning and zoning office, and certainly the two previous communities I was in, I might go and I'd have to go pitch my plan to the fire marshal, have him or her review those plans, and then, okay, now you go pitch it to, somebody else. They review it, get back to you in 2 or 3 weeks, and now you have to go pitch it to. You have a laundry list of people that you have to pitch it to over the course of 2 or 3 months, and every one of them has to come back to you with modified changes. And so at some point in time, I have to go back. If the fourth person has asked for a modified change, then I have to start the whole process again. It could go on for eternity. 5 years ago, that changed here in Athens and Clark County. So you really only go up and pitch on Wednesdays, I think, if I'm correct. You have everybody in a room together, and you pitch a project. Now they all may ask and suggest changes, but you basically cut 5 or 6 weeks out of the process because you're pitching everybody at one time. It doesn't make it easy, but it's okay. I think there are some onerous things. It's sign ordinances and that type of thing create a problem. I think the largest issue that business owners have right now or will be facing is workforce.
Yeah, I agree. It's just like going back to that business plan portion that we're talking about for any new aspiring entrepreneurs or business owners, is that you have to project into the future. What is our growth going to be? Do we have a population in our current community to be able to sustain that growth with saying, hey, by 5 years from now, we're going to need an additional 200 people in our workforce? And if you don't have that, I know that in any of the services and trades industries right now, that's one of the biggest constraints that they have, just getting qualified tradesmen in to work on some of their jobs.
Yeah, I think we've done a disservice to a couple generations of children. I mentioned earlier that we lost 10,000 or 6,000 jobs in Mount Airy, North Carolina in the mid-90s. A couple generations leading up to that, people might, you might have a history of working in a manufacturing plant, not having necessarily gone to college, but you're able to earn middle income dollars in a manufacturing plant or in some other way, shape, or form. And then when everything went south in the 90s, you had a lot of parents who said, well, if you're going to do better than me, you have to get a 4-year degree.
Yeah.
So you basically had 20 years of really a hardcore push for a 4-year degree. What happened is we don't have plumbers, we don't have tilers, we don't have electricians. Those trade opportunities are phenomenal. So we need to. We're all trying to refocus a lot of effort away from the 4-year institution and look at the Athens Career Academy as a way to get pre-certified or a certification to directly move into the workforce, or to go to Athens Technical College and get that certification. And if I were 18, I don't even know I can't even remember what 18 looked like. But I would hope I would have the fortitude to think, man, I can make $80,000 a year next year if I just go get my electrician's certification.
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, prior to being in real estate, I was in the military, and so I learned my trade there.
Oh, thank you.
Totally my pleasure. It was a curse being in Hawaii for 4 years, rough duty station.
I used to like you a lot.
But after the military, I was an industrial electrician for about 15 years. Wow. So, we always said that the trades industry is an easy way to make 6 figures a year guaranteed. Like, you're going to work your butt off during that time period. But if you don't have that college degree, there's a lot of opportunities there for you.
Yeah, and a college degree, I've got $3, right, that and we were just counting up our college debt, with those 3. And and they're all doing fine. They have great lives. But is the college debt comparable? Could they be doing much better for themselves financially, not having gone through college and get some type of a trade degree? 100% yes.
Yeah.
So it's we just got cockeyed for a little bit of time.
Understandable. So like as we start to wrap this up, I usually like to finish this out with some more kind of advice. So what advice could you give to, say, other real estate agents or other commercial real estate brokers that are looking to kind of really build strong partnerships with local businesses, like whether they're involved with the chamber or not,
right?
And what could they do out there to kind of help grow their business from a networking perspective, or like with what's going on in the economy right
now? I would. What's the differentiating factor? I think you always want to differentiate yourself from your competition in some way, shape, or form. And you said earlier, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. And I had my real estate license for a short while as well, and it's not an easy business. Bless you. Listen to folks who you're showing property to, whether it's commercial or residential, and if what are their barriers? Education, commercial development, what have you. The more if the more you know, the better. The more valued you're going to be to them. Mm-hmm. I would tell anybody that's listening to the broadcast, if you want to be connected to, if somebody says, "Gosh, I just don't know about that education system. I don't know about that Clark County School District," that might be perception. It might be reality. But is it what reality is going to look like this next year and the year after that? I would suggest the answer is no. I would think that our education system is on the rise to becoming really a great asset versus some might have said a liability before. But if you don't have that information,
yeah,
you're not providing the value to your clientele that you could. Or if you want to know if there's some commercial activity that is within a couple miles of property that you're trying to sell, just find out. Just ask. I have such phenomenal expectations for what our community will look like in 5 or 10 years, and people all over the country, all over the world, for all practical purposes, know and love Athens without ever having stepped foot in it. So I think you're going to continue to get a lot of people that are looking, but just try to get engaged to know not only what's happening right now, but to what's expected to happen in the coming years.
Yeah. Now, to close this out, do you guys have anybody business-wise that you would just, they're on your radar, or if anybody comes across this, be like, hey, I'm in that industry, and I've been thinking about, coming over into the Athens area?
Wow. What I believe that we'll see happen more of. The Athena Studios, the new film studio that is open now. What a crazy, horrible, but also great time to open up a film studio, just as all the writers and actors goes on strike, and it's terrible because the studios are empty.
Yeah.
But the longer the strike goes on, let's assume that it goes on for another month or whatever. When that strike ends, every studio in the country is going to be overloaded with people that are going to be trying to film something, because there's such a need and a backlog for needing of new material, new episodic, shows. So I believe that Athena Studios will, as soon as the strike is over with, will get slammed. So what I would suggest, that's it's the folks who have the capacity to, and these are all trades for the most part. If you can build a set, if you can, you're an electrician. That's a realm, and I'm pretty sure the pay is pretty good in that realm, in the film realm. When that happens, and we are set to really explode in the film industry here.
Well, I'm looking forward to that and seeing what that kind of unfolds into.
It's just I really didn't think about it until we took a tour of the studios a couple weeks ago, and I think, oh God, what a terrible time to open up. And I realized, I'm sure that Joel Harbour is wishing this strike to be over with as quickly as possible. But when it does end, it will be explosive, the growth.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Well, you guys have heard it here first. Mr. David Bradley, appreciate your time today.
Hey, I appreciate it, Jake.
If you are in the Athens area and you're not a member of the Chamber of Commerce, I would be a huge advocate for you to reach out to anybody over here at the Chamber to, for one, get your application in, start attending some of these events. It's a great opportunity for you to meet other business owners and business leaders in the community that you might not normally interface with, and you really never know where those relationships will be able to take you and your business. So if you guys have any questions at all, I'll make sure to have David's information below this, along with just the location and contact info for the Chamber of Commerce. But as always, we appreciate your time. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them below, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, David. Hey guys, so as we wrap up another episode of the Northeast Georgia Real Estate Podcast, I want to extend a big thank you to our remarkable guest, David Bradley. He had some phenomenal insights and definitely a wealth of information of what's going on business-wise and economics-wise within the Athens community. So I greatly appreciate your time and your participation. Now, to all you property owners out there, whether you're considering buying, selling, or leasing commercial or residential real estate in the greater Atlanta, Northeast Georgia area, or even the western upstate portion of South Carolina, remember that we are here to support you. Our dedicated team is ready to guide you through every step of your real estate journey. Our team is an absolute powerhouse, featuring specialized commercial agents who excel in leasing and sales across diverse categories, including office, retail space, industrial properties, and multifamily residences. Now, on the residential side, our agents specialize in everything from traditional single-family homes to luxury estates, and even navigating the intricate world of REO and short sales. And here's something exciting for all you licensed agents across the Southeast, covering South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. If you're seeking a supportive community of real estate professionals who can act as your mentors, advisors, coaches, and friends, look no further. At VPR First Team, we provide exclusive one-on-one access to some of the most successful commercial and residential realtors and brokers in this field. So if you're looking to learn, grow, and thrive in your real estate career, or if you're on the hunt for a new home, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're here to make a journey as smooth as possible. So thank you once again for joining us on this episode of the Northeast Georgia Real Estate Podcast. If you've enjoyed the insights shared here today, remember to subscribe, rate, leave a message, leave a comment below, leave a review. And until next time, keep those dreams alive, and we'll catch you on the next episode.